Shalom, this is Yair Davidiy speaking to you from the land of Israel. Today we are about to discuss the Khazars. The Khazars were people who lived in southern Russia. They converted to Judaism. Remnants of them may be found amongst the present-day Jews. As a minority in certain communities, they were not numerous, but they were important. They were important historically and symbolically and for numerous reasons. The Khazars were a people. They were a people who descended from the lost 10 tribes, or they descended from a mixture of the lost 10 tribes of Jews and non-Jews mixed in together, and they found themselves in southern Russia, quite a powerful kingdom at that time. It was before Russia existed as we know it today. And they were a warrior nation, a nation of warriors who are feared and respected on the international scene of that time in the situation where they found themselves in. And as we said, they were descended from, according to their own traditions, from the tribes of Shimon and other Israelite tribes, and also the aristocracy came from the tribe of Manasseh, according to several versions of their own nations. And they also had intermixed to some degree with non-Jews of the surrounding peoples and others. And in addition to that, many Jews, refugees from surrounding areas, from Babylon, from Armenia, from different areas, also came to live amongst them because they were fleeing from persecution in the places that they had been in. And they were very numerous, and a good portion of these Jews were not religious. They were assimilated. Some of them kept circumcision, not all of them. Some of them kept circumcision, some of them kept the Sabbath. That's about all. And they had a vague recollection of being Jewish. That was the situation at the time. That was the cultural environment they found themselves in. And they had this mixture of people who descend from Israelites, but didn't keep the religion. You had others, Jews, who had once been Jewish, but no longer were so much, and of Gentiles, and they're all mixed in together. And an arousal in about the 500, 600 CE, an arousal amongst them, a religious revival, one could say, came about, possibly due to the Christian pressure in nations around them were pagan and began to convert to Christianity. Shortly afterwards, also the Muslims came up, and the Muslims were also important, or Muslims were also pressuring them to change their religion, and as a result, an interest in religion in general, and the importance of religion, of defining oneself in a religious sense, came about. There was a revival of religious feeling, a spiritual awareness in the land, and many of them were inclined towards Judaism, because a lot of them were descended from Jews, or had recollections, vague recollections, or remembrances of having once been Jewish, having belonged to the Hebrew people. So it came about that the king organised a disputation between representatives of Islam, of Christianity, and of Judaism. And after this disputation, the king decided that he was going to become Jewish, and he did so. He became Jewish. So did a good portion of his aristocracy, of his nobles, and at first not that many of the people, but eventually most of his people did, according to the sources. And also this event took place. It took about 100 years, so 500 CE to 600 CE. At the beginning, they weren't so full-fledged Jews. They had some type of intermediate status of Gentiles who kept some of the Jewish customs. It's not exactly certain, but they weren't Jewish at first, in the full sense of the word, but later on they became full-fledged Jews, kosher Jews, according to the rabbinical requirements. And they were quite powerful. Even after becoming Jewish, they remained even more powerful than they had been beforehand, and they reigned in the area, or had an influence over the region they were in for several centuries. Eventually, the Russians defeated them, and so a good portion of their greatness diminished, their influence diminished, their power diminished after this defeat. But they remained, they were still there for a while, until eventually, it could have been because of the Mongols, it's not sure, but somehow or other they disappeared. They disappeared as a political entity, but physical remnants of them remained and were to be found amongst some Jewish communities. So this is what we have. They may not have been numerous amongst the Jews, but they were there. There were Jewish families here and there who could say that they were descended from the Khazars. Also, when they had been very powerful, they had been known for being liberal. They allowed Christians and Muslims to dwell amongst them. In fact, many Christians and Muslims preferred to be in the Khazar area, to live with them, because they were better treated than they were by members of their own religions and their own peoples. This is recorded, this is on record by these peoples themselves. So they had a good reputation as far as dealing with people, as far as civilization and cultural values are concerned. And this is important. It's important to know about them, to recognize them, and we may ask what's the point of it. So first of all, we have proven it, they were descended from the 10 tribes of Israel. Though in areas where the 10 tribes of Israel were reported to have been, such as by the Don and Danaster rivers, which are identified with the Sambatian River, and other areas. Also, Armenia was a place of exile of the 10 tribes, and they themselves had their traditions that they came from the 10 tribes, and here and there were traditions that must have related back to some Hebrew ancestry, which also confirm it. So we can take it, and that is what they believed in, and there are grounds to accept this belief of theirs, and their later actions also testify to this is what they were. And this is what we all have. We don't all, none of us have much more than that. They were who they said they were. And no one said any different. So we may accept them as being what they were. So based on Maimonides and Rabbi Abraham Kook and different rabbinical thoughts, processes and philosophical outlooks, and also from biblical passages, we have constructed the following explanation as to their significance. And we have to see it in the perspective of the 10 tribes in general. So as we understand it, the Israelites at first, when the Israelites came out of Egypt, they had two goals, two tasks were set before them, one could say. According to the Bible, the simple truth of the Bible, the simple meaning of the Bible, the message of the biblical message, if you just read it straightforward, it says that the Jews, that is the Jews of both the Jews, I mean the Hebrews, all of the Hebrews at the beginning, all the 12 tribes, they had to learn the Torah, they had to keep the Torah, keep the law, and also they had to elevate mankind to a higher level and to rule over the nations. So it came about for historical reasons, whatever the case. They themselves at the time were not capable of fulfilling these requirements. They were not capable of taking the two tasks one at the same time and keeping them and doing them. They were not ready for this, and the world was not ready for them. So, as if to say that God Almighty split the Israelites into two different sections, divide them into two different sections. Each section would have one of the tasks to fulfill, and eventually when they had done that, or when they had at least progressed in the required direction, they will come together and reunite, and then also the two tasks will be reunited as one. Assumedly, that is what no one says, that this is what we understand the sources to say. So each section of the Israelites took a portion of the national mission, one could say, the national tasks upon themselves. The Jews, they were the ones who were not exiled by the Assyrians. They remained in the region of Judah, and from them come the present-day Jews from the tribes of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, and the remnants from all of the other tribes. They are the present-day Jews, and their main task was to keep the law, and to develop the law and to learn the law, as well as surviving or getting by in a national sense. And this is what they did. As the 10 tribes, in order to fulfill their task, they had to go down to the level of the Gentiles, as if to say, to deteriorate in certain spiritual aspects of their being, to go down to a lower level, and then pull themselves up, elevate themselves, and elevate the rest of the world with them. And we identify the lost 10 tribes with Western peoples, and this is what historically they did do. They became barbarians, they lived like barbarians, they had the values of barbarians, but gradually they evolved upwards, and they have taken the rest of the world with them. Whether you can argue with me on this, you can say how much was done, how much was genuine, how much good it really has done. You can argue on the bits and pieces, on nitty-bitty little points here and there, but on the whole this is the case. This is what happened, this is what is happening now, and this is what has been happening for several past centuries, and this explains it. So this is what we have. So, and the Khazars, what were the Khazars? The Khazars were in effect a combination. The Khazars were elements from the 10 tribes, elements from Gentiles, and elements from the Jews, all mixed up together, all living as Gentiles and being a powerful enlightened nation at the same time, and eventually returning to Judaism and reuniting with Judah, with the Jewish people. And they, as if to say, a pre-adumbration, a foreshadowing of what will happen in the end times, or what is destined to happen in the end times, to the 10 tribes on the whole. So this is, take it or leave it, this is what the sources seem to indicate will happen, and this is what we may take the Khazars as having been a foreshadowing of what will happen in the end times, a pattern, as if to say. The Midrash tells us, and the Midrash says that you are fair, my love, on the Song of Solomon. When you take retribution from the worshippers of idols, you are pleasant when you pay the reward of those who fear you. Also Abed, these are the 10 tribes. It's a play on words. In Hebrew, eres for bed, and the word for 10 are similar. Sereno are 10. And the Midrash goes on that these are those who exiled beyond the Sambatian River, the exiles of Judah and Benjamin, that is the present-day Jews, are destined to go unto them, go unto the 10 tribes, and bring them back in order to merit with them the Messianic era and life in the world to come. This is as it says, in those days the house of Judah shall go unto the house of Israel, and they shall come together out of the land of the north unto the land that I have given for inheritance unto your fathers. And as it says in Jeremiah 3:18, in those days the house of Judah shall go into the house of Israel, and they shall come together out of the land of the north unto the land that I have given for an inheritance unto your fathers. Jeremiah 3:18. And it says here that these are the 10 tribes, or that section of the 10 tribes who exiled beyond the Sambatian River. The Sambatian River was identified with several places, but one of the places, and the place which is most certain, most substantial, the identification which sticks, which is most persuasive, and which was most widely accepted in the time when it was written down. It is in the 500s, 600s CE. They identified the Sambatian River in effect with the Don River, or sometimes with the Dniester River in southern Russia. The Dniester is close to the Don River, and they also flow into the Black Sea close together, and so they could be confused with each other. But usually, at all events, usually the Don River was identified with the Sambatian River, and if not, it was the Dniester, which is nearby. And the Sambatian was considered to be in that area, and we also have the name Sambatian found in that region. A Sambatian River, apparently among non-Jewish Greeks, used the Sambatian, the word, or both the name, the very name Sambatian, also names similar to it, derived from it, as personal names, according to inscriptions that we have found, which supports popular Jewish traditions. So we have it, so that we say that the Khazars were in that region, the Khazars were by the Sambatian, and Jews did come from them, from Judah and Benjamin, and they did persuade them. They themselves returned to Judaism, and they persuaded the rest of the people there, the other from the 10 tribes, to return with them, and they did return to Judaism, and they did re-accept the yoke of heaven, and they had, at the same time, they had established a powerful kingdom, and they were spreading the ideas of civilization, of correct behaviour and so on, both amongst themselves and amongst the peoples around them. So they were in effect fulfilling the task of the 10 tribes. And then wasn't ready. The world wasn't ready for this to spread, to develop. But it was a practice run, one could say. It did happen, and it is a pattern of what is destined to happen in the future in some way or other on a larger scale. So this is the importance of the Khazars. Thank you. May the Lord God of Israel bless you.